Chapter 6 of Stories of Animal Sagacity. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. This reading by Allison Hester of Athens, Georgia. Stories of Animal Sagacity by WHG Kingston. Chapter 6. Oxen. The virtues of cows are more active than passive. I may sum them up by saying that they are very affectionate mothers, and will sometimes, like horses and dogs, find their way across the country to the spot where they have been bred. The proud cow. Mrs. F. told me the following anecdote. Her father had 4 cows, which every evening at milking time were driven from their field into their byre. On their way they had to pass through the farmyard, when they would endeavor to snatch as many mouthfuls of hay as they had time to secure from the haystacks. One especially, who was accustomed to take the lead of the other cows, was more particularly addicted to this trick. She was thus sometimes the last to be driven into the byre. When, however, she found that her 3 companions had entered before her, nothing would induce her to follow them. She would stand with her forelegs just over the threshold, stretch forth her neck, and moo angrily. But further than this, neither coaxing, blows, nor the barking of the dog at her heels would induce her to go. The contest always ended in the rest of the cows being driven out, when she would at once take the lead, and walk quietly into her stall without the least persuasion. The dairy maid called her the proud cow. Another Irish cow has been known to act in a similar manner. So her pride brought Mistress Cow many a whack on the back. Depend on it, if you stand on your dignity, you may often suffer, as she did. End of the proud cow. The cow and her tormentor. In my younger days I had a companion who used to catch our tutor's cow by the tail, and make her drag him at full speed round and round the field. One day, when he was quietly walking along the path to church, the cow espied him, and making chase, very nearly caught him with her horns as he leaped over the nearest gate. I will tell you of another cow, which was frequently annoyed by a boy amusing himself with throwing stones at her. She had borne his mischief for some time, when at length, making after him, she hooked the ends of her horns into his clothes, lifted him from the ground, carried him out of the field, and laid him down in the road. She then, satisfied with the gentle punishment she had inflicted, returned calmly to her pasture. End of the cow and her tormentor. A cow seeking her calf. Cows have as much affection for their young as have other animals, and it is piteous to hear them mooing when deprived of their calves. A cow had her calf taken from her, and left at Bushy Park, while she was driven off to Smithfield to be sold. The following morning, when it was supposed the cow was in London, she appeared at the gate of the yard in which her calf was confined. Influenced by her love for her offspring, she had broken out of the pen, passed through all the streets and suburbs, without being stopped by the police, who naturally supposed, from her quiet demeanor, that the drover must be at her heels, and once in the country, had quickly traversed the 12 miles which took her to her former home. It is probable that she traversed the same road to Bushy which she had followed when being driven from that place to Smithfield. In Africa, the Hottentot shepherds employ a species of cows to guard their flocks of sheep. They keep the animals together with all the sagacity of Scotch sheep dogs, and will attack with the utmost bravery any enemy attempting to injure them. What difficulties does true love overcome! If that poor, dull cow could feel such love for her offspring as to overcome the usual apathy of her kind, what must the feelings of a human mother be towards her children? Can you, then, ever carelessly wound yours by misconduct? End of the cow seeking her calf. A savage bull tamed by kindness. A savage bull was kept in a farmyard constantly chained on account of its fierceness. A gentleman who went to stay at the farm was an especial object of dislike to the animal. One night, during a tremendous storm of thunder and lightning, the bull was heard to roar piteously, evidently alarmed at the strife of the elements. The servants were ordered to lead the bull from its open shed into a closed stable, where it would be less exposed, but they were afraid to go. The visitor, therefore, compassionating the animal, although it had shown itself his determined foe, went out into the yard. Here he found the bull lying on its back, having, in its struggles to get free, almost torn the ring through the gristle of its nose. No sooner did he appear than the creature rose, and by its fawning actions showed how delighted it was to obtain the companionship of a human being. Now, quiet as a lamb, it allowed the stranger to lead it into the stable, and the next morning, when he went to visit it, it endeavored to express its gratitude by rubbing its nose against him. From that day forward it always treated him as a friend, while it remained as savage as before towards everyone else. There are times when the most savage hearts can be touched. Wait for them, and then apply the soothing balm of gentleness. End of A Savage Bull Tamed by Kindness. The faithful buffalo. Ferocious in aspect, as is the long, hairy-skinned buffalo, or properly the bison, of America, and savage when attacked, yet it is capable of devoted affection towards its own kind. A party of hunters were riding on the prairies when two fine buffalo bulls were seen proceeding along the opposite side of a stream. One of the hunters took aim at the nearest buffalo, which was crossing with his haunches towards him. The ball broke the animal's right hip, and he plunged away on 3 legs, the other hanging useless. The hunter, leaping on his horse, put spurs to its flanks, and in 3 minutes he and his companions were close on the bull. To his astonishment, and the still greater surprise of the 2 older hunters, the unhurt bull stuck to his comrade's side without flinching. He fired another shot, which took effect in the lungs of the first buffalo. The second sheered off for a moment, but instantly returned to his friend. The wounded buffalo became distressed and slackened his pace. The unwounded one not only retarded his, but coming to the rear of his friend, stood with his head down, offering battle. Here indeed was devotion. The sight was, to all 3 of the hunters, a sublime one. They could no more have accepted the challenge of this brave creature than they could have smitten Damon at the side of Pythias. The wounded buffalo ran on to the border of the next marsh, and in attempting to cross, fell headlong down the steep bank. Not till that moment, when courage was useless, did his faithful companion seek his own safety in flight. The hunters took off their hats and gave 3 parting cheers as he vanished on the other side of the wood. End of The Faithful Buffalo. The affectionate buffalo bull. The cow buffaloes are frequently attracted by a ruse of the Indians, which they call "making a calf." One of the party covers himself with a buffalo skin, and another with the skin of a wolf. They then creep on all 4s within sight of the buffaloes, when the pretended wolf jumps on the back of the pretended calf, which bellows in imitation of the real one, crying for assistance. A white man and an Indian were hunting together. At length a solitary bull and cow were seen in the distance. After the Indian personating the calf had bellowed a short time, the cow ran forward and attempted to spring towards the hunters, but the bull, seeming to understand the trick, tried to stop her by running between them. The cow now dodged and got round him, and ran within 10 or 15 yards of them with the bull close at her heels, when both men fired and brought her down. The bull instantly stopped short, and bending over her, tried to help her up with his nose, evincing the most persevering affection for her, nor could they get rid of him, so as to cut up the cow without shooting him also, a cruel reward to the noble animal for his conjugal affection. This account, which is mentioned by Mr. Kane the artist, and that previously given, shows that these animals are capable of great affection for each other, though in general they leave their wounded comrades to shift for themselves. End of the affectionate buffalo bull. The kind ox and the sheep. I have to tell you of an instance of the benevolence of an ox. Oxen may possess many virtues, but are not in the habit of making a parade of them. Sheep are sometimes seized with fits, when they fall on their back, and are unable of themselves to regain their legs. While in this helpless position, they are sometimes attacked by birds of prey, which tear out their eyes, and otherwise injure them. An unfortunate sheep had fallen in the way I have described, and was in vain endeavoring to struggle to its feet, when an ox, grazing near, observed what had happened. Going up to it, it carefully turned the animal over on its side, and when it had regained its feet, walked away, and went on feeding as before, satisfied that it had done what was wanted. My young friends, try to help those in distress, though there may be as much difference between you and them as between that ox and the sheep. End of the kind ox and the sheep. The courageous bull. I remember meeting with an account of a bull which fed on the savannas of Central America. He had gored so many cattle that he was at length caught with a lasso, and, to prevent him doing further mischief, the tips of his horns were blunted. Some weeks after, a cow belonging to his herd was found killed by a jaguar, and from the state of the bull's head and neck, which were fearfully torn, it was evident that he had fought bravely for the animals under his care. It was now seen that it would have been wiser not to have deprived the defender of the herd of his weapons. To enable him to do battle in the future, he was secured, his wounds were dressed, and his horns made sharp again. The body of the cow having been preserved from the birds and beasts of prey during the day, the gallant bull was turned out again in the evening. The jaguar, as expected, returned at night, when a furious battle took place. The next morning the jaguar was found dead, pierced through and through, close by the cow, while the bull, which stood near, bleeding from many a wound, was seen to rush, ever and anon, against his now helpless antagonist. End of the courageous bull. The brave bull and the wise pig. A pig had been stolen by two men who were driving it at night along an unfrequented path in the neighborhood of Rotherham. As the pig squeaked loudly, they feared they might be betrayed, and were about to kill it. The pig, however, struggled violently, and had already received a wound when it managed to escape into a neighboring field, squeaking still louder with blood flowing from its wound. The robbers, pursuing the pig, found themselves face to face with a large bull, which had, till now, been grazing quietly. Apparently understanding the state of affairs, and compassionating, it may be presumed, the pig, he ran fiercely at the men, compelling them to fly for their lives. It was only, indeed, by leaping desperately over a hedge that they escaped an ugly toss from the horns of the animal. In vain did they wait, in the hope of recovering the pig. Piggy, having found a powerful friend, was too wise to desert him, and kept close to his heels, till the crowing of the cocks in the neighboring farms warned the robbers to make their escape. End of The Brave Bull and the Wise Pig. End of Chapter 6 of Stories of Animal Sagacity.